Explain like I'm 5. Why can't we use the heat from combustion to make cars more efficient? Can we use the heat to boil water to turn a turbine? Or would the water never cool enough to be used again? What about using the heat to create pressure and then releasing the pressure to help move the fly wheel? Because of size issues, you need the boiler, the turbines, the dynamo, and you need a constant influx of water, and a stock of water to evaporate. For all it takes, you'd consume more energy to make it work than you'll get. To some degree, turbocharging does this by recovering the waste heat from the exhaust gas to drive a compressor. The result is a higher intake pressure, which increases engine efficiency at the cost of increased weight and complexity. Before the adoption of jet engines, the last generation of large radial aircraft engines used a technique called turbocompounding, wherein the turbo not only drove the compressor, but the crankshaft as well. These engines powerful and efficient, but very complex and a maintenance nightmare. It's possible. Formula One cars use a component called the MGUH to turn exhaust heat into electrical energy that can be deployed through the hybrid motor. The reason it hasn't been adopted by scale is that it's extremely expensive to do. This may not be exactly what you meant, but cars do use the heat from the engine to be more efficient. Namely, when you turn on the heater in your car, it's using heat extracted from the engine via the coolant to heat your car for free rather than requiring any alternative heat source. F1 cars do harness the heat energy and turn it into electricity. I read that an F1 power unit is about 50 efficient compared to a normal road car, which is about 30. I've always wondered about sticking Peltier devices to the exhaust and charging up lithium batteries from it. I think it might have been Volvo. Years ago I saw they designed a 5-cycle gasoline engine. The 5th cycle was water. It used the residual heat from the gasoline combustion to flash boil water in the cylinder. I don't remember much about it, but I thought it was cool. This is what idea. The steam machine is okay. It works. In fact, the first car was like this. The problem is the performance, or efficiency. The percentage of energy you transform in work from the combustible energy. If you are making a big machine such as a power plant, this is the best idea. Have best efficiency. If the machine is little, the best is 2 times gasoline engine. Like little motorbikes. Is the power is a little bigger? Is better 4 times gasoline. Bigger. Diesel. For example, little ships. And only in a very big machine the steam machine is better. But we already do it. Turbochargers harvest excess energy that comes out the exhaust and use it to pump more air into the intake, aiding combustion. Mercedes M278 4.0-liter twin turbos consume way less fuel and generates way more power than the older M273 engine 5.5-liter normally aspirated V8. As someone else pointed out, turbocharging does use hot exhaust energy to improve efficiency though, without generating electricity. Direct inject plays a large part in the improved efficiency along with turbocharging and automatic transmission improvements. Not enough heat, also why we can't use the heat generated by our phones to charge our phones. BMW tried to ditch the alternator by using a massive thermocouple in the exhaust to generate power to charge the battery via waste exhaust heat. It didn't pan out. Actually, you can. It's just that the benefits don't outweigh the weight and complexity. Turbochargers are one instance where you use waste energy to compress the incoming air, which offers a slight increase in efficiency. Wastewater plants that use anaerobic digestion can use a combined heat and power unit that uses waste heat from the engine. passes it into a hot water loop heat exchanger to provide heat to a population of microorganisms that consume poop and turn it into, among other things, methane gas that then powers the fucking engine. Turbos kinda do this maybe. X200B I am kinda interested if they make the engine more efficient. There's no reason why you can't say add an extra cylinder or two to an internal combustion engine and run it on steam. The main problem I can see is that to make it work the steam needs to be superheated so nearer 200 degrees Celsius, whereas you don't want the water in a conventional ice engine to boil as it stops to work correctly for cooling the engine. I guess you could go for a sealed system for the water and different oils. The heat is salvageable with a Stirling engine. Such an engine is able to work with a very little temperature difference between a hot and a cold source. The problem with Stirling engines is that it has a low power density. You need a big chunk of an engine in a car, which adds weight. This type of engine goes well with big ships and power plants. It is not cost-effective for small vehicles. Capturing it and using it would never provide a sufficient return on investment to make it worthwhile, while also not hindering the necessary cooling systems to make the engine run in the first place. You'd stand a better chance with things like Peltiers, which can convert heat directly to electricity with no mechanical movement. But they are also inefficient. By the time you collected everything you could and made the best practical use of it that you could, you'd probably not make as much energy to run the headlights for an hour or so from hours of driving. Its possibility in theory does nothing to practicality. You'll need new designs. Will be too much weight and size. The savings might be very low at this point. Now, big boats used to have steam, as you might be thinking. It's a scale and cost issue. In a moving vehicle, having a light engine is more important than pure efficiency because you have to spend energy to move the engine around. This is why internal combustion won over steam engines. Complexity. You are adding more systems and parts into the situation, so that means way more can go wrong. And there's the possibility that when it goes wrong, it could take something else out with it. Gas cars are already super expensive and complex as is. Efficiency. There's also the situation of cars are already super packed with stuff that adding more stuff would make it heavier, thus negating any efficiency you might have gained by added all that extra stuff. So the car will have to carry and consume more gas to compensate for the added weight. I guess you could put thermocouples on the engine block and generate at least some electricity that way, but I figure the complexity, weight, and expense outweigh the gains, or cars would have that already. Could you do it with a Stirling engine? They do this cool thing where they use it to mechanically compress the intake airflow and improve combustion. It's not true that we don't. I think the current way of using the exhaust to do more work is through a turbocharger. That works by using the exhaust to run a turbine that compresses fresh air to get a leaner air-gas mixture, so it's doing more work by compressing air. However, to use that exhaust to charge your phone, per se, is not possible. Most of our current technology transforms energy to a different through energy differential. So you would need either a lot of air or very hot air compared to the environment to get any useful energy out of it. I haven't seen anyone mention a 6-stroke engine yet. They have been around for over 100 years, but obviously not really used for lots of reasons. But they do use thermal waste to increase efficiency. They work by injecting water into the combustion chamber after the power stroke. The water is turned to steam, which gives a second power stroke and helps keep the block and head cool. Not exactly explain like I'm 5, but I always thought it was a cool concept.